Oh, hey, Jose. Jose, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, thanks. All right, great. Yeah. So this education planner, Pearson House has you need a Eric, you need a you're gonna get one?
Yeah,
I know. Or I can give you that one. If nobody else needs it, I can lend you that.
That's
That's
okay.
okay.
Get one Friday.
Yeah, if it's a hardship, don't worry about it. Because if no one else uses it, we're okay. If no one else wants it. So everyone else has their scale? I don't know how much we use it tonight. We might go over some of that, just refresh after, but I really want to make sure that the prep gets in. So, framing plans, yeah? So on this set, it would be on starting A4. Or page 5 of 12. Can you hear that, Eric and Arya and Zach?
Yeah. Well, you're a little quiet.
Okay. So we're going to go over framing plans on that house set of plans. So what do you see right off in this drawing? Yeah, lots and lots of choice, because that's what a floor system's made out of. They also have decks which blend in, but they're the lighter ones front and back. There's a couple of deck systems. All the rest are joists. Now, there's a couple things to know about this to read these. Let's start at the top right. That's kind of a simpler area. You see at the very top right, it says 2x10 rim joist. So these joists are going vertically in both the bed. That's a bedroom. Remember, that's the bedroom we looked at yesterday. But if you turn the floor plan, that would be in the same place. So it's the bedroom, the walk-in closet. Yeah. So that those three rooms on the end there. So the joists are going vertically, so they have to hit something. They have to connect to something that holds them together, right? So that's called a rim joist. Everybody see that? It's a manifold. Everything's a manifold. And the joists have a name, and studs have a name, and rafters have a name, and also the end pieces have all different names. Those are probably the trickiest. They get mixed up. Sometimes they call them a rim joist, right, Eric? Well, this is called a rim joist. Yeah, sometimes they call them an end joist, but the end joist is often the last one going this way. So it gets confusing, but I think rim joist is safe for the header. And they're almost always the same size as the joist because they fit together. And those are laying on a, we won't look at foundations because that's coming up in a later unit, but you can bet there's a foundation wall under that outside wall. And then there's a plate, and they build the floor with that header and the joist right on top of that plate. So that's what we're looking at. You can kind of see the plate. And you'll notice that under that, in the middle of the joist, it says 2x10 joist at 24-inch on center. Everybody sees that? So the 24 on center is obviously how much for space. And usually they're that, although to the right under the bathroom, they're 2x8s, but they're 16 on center. So that makes up for the bigger space. They're thinner joists, but they're space closer. So it bears the same amount of weight. And the reason they probably use 2x8s here is because they're probably cheaper. Or I don't know, because they turn out about the same when you're spacing them differently and resizing them.
Or is it so they have more space for all the plumbing underneath or something?
Well, yeah,
But
but
it's under the bathroom.
yeah, maybe. I mean, the plumbing's usually in the wall, except for like a tub. It could be in the center of the room. Usually the toilets are close to the walls and they go into the wall. Well, maybe we can find the plumbing later, but that could be a reason, but I don't know. Anyway, but see that 2x10 joist at 24 on center that I first mentioned? Now see to the left of it, there's a line below it, and that line has a slash on the left. and a slash on the right. So what that means, those are symbols that are really important to reading framing plans. That means that's the span of that group of joists. It starts with the left slant and goes to the right slant, doesn't go any further. And you'll see same thing on the next room, the 2x8s. They start on the left and then go all the way to the outside of the right. So that tells you the scope of the joist, where it goes to, right? So that's really important, and that's how you read that. If it's done well like this, you can count the joists, and that's a great way to both order and build. You can measure how long they are and count the number. That's what you order, maybe one per waist. Sometimes they don't do a framing plan like that. We'll look at some later on, and I'll show you some interesting ways they do it. But sometimes they won't do that. They'll just they want to actually put into those joists, and you have to sort of figure it out. And there's ways to do that. But right now, let's just look at this. Now, so you've got even though they're spaced differently, the two rooms, the joists are different depths, right?
Yeah.
So how does that work?
That's weird because the top of the joists have to plane in.
Right.
To accommodate the plywood. So
Right. So this is a floor. So how do you think they're going to match up?
build the sill plate up.
They just some go deeper, right? The 10s will go down further.
Or some would go higher. You'd have to put two.
Well, if you had a
bricks.
step, right? You could
Yeah.
have a step, but I don't think there's a step on this. We can look at A5. You're right. No, there's no step.
But
It's
yeah,
even.
I've never seen that.
So I know, well,
Yes.
always something new. So when it's a floor and there's a crawl space underneath foundation where there's no room or anything, you can vary the depth because they can stick down into that different depth. They're only a few inches off. And in the attic, you can do the same thing. Except sometimes the attic, you go up there and store stuff and you want that floor pretty flat. If it's got different things, it's going to be kind of awkward. But the floors in between the attic and the foundation, they have to be the same size because there's a ceiling below them that has to be even. And there's a floor above them that has to be even. So if this had 2 stories, that second floor would have to, all the joists you would see would be all 2x10s or 2x8s because they all have to line up top and bottom. But on the bottom, you can let the bottom go on, at the top, you can let the top go on. Got that, everybody? Yeah. I don't know why Eric and I and the rest of us
And
consider.
then in the middle, they're calling for I joists.
Yeah, I know.
11 7/8. So
I know.
that would actually
So-
be the highest one.
I know. So, yeah, so those, I just have to be lower. And it has something written in here in the box. I joists are lighter, use less wood fiber and span great distances than greater. They've got the distances and dimensional number. So remember I told you this was an educational set of plans. There's a lot of stuff in here that's kind of out of it. That's one of them. They're just trying to give more information to you. A set of plans wouldn't talk about I-joists because everybody from the person who designs it to the supplier to the carpenter knows what those are. We don't need them to tell us all that. But there'll be little notes in this that are just trying to educate us, and I'll try to point out the ones that really wouldn't be on a more normal set. I-joists are it's like this right here. This is yeah, this is engineered wood. We used to just have beams that were like this big, and then somebody came up with a brilliant idea of putting these are you can't see it too well. These are laminated pieces of wood, which is a type of wood, and then this is just OSB or plywood, just the cheap, crappy stuff. But they wrap it, they dado it out, put that in, they glue the hell out of it on a high temperature, and these things are stronger than wood of that size, believe it or not, and they're straighter. They're manufactured, so they're just straight as an arrow. So some people like them for that reason. You know, throw out bended ones. You have to, sometimes there's holes drilled in these, or there's little cutouts, but there's certain specifications of where you can drill holes and how many you can drill because you don't want to weaken it too much. But this has replaced a lot of things. How many in here have been framed in a house in the last year? Oh yeah. Any of them had I-joists? Yeah. So that's an interesting thing. It varies totally where you are, what kind of workers you have. It's a real weird thing. But some places, it's almost too hard for the carpenters to learn a new system. So they just go with the old system, even though it wastes more wood and it costs more. But if you can do a learning curve and get all your crews to understand these, they're straighter and they're lighter and they're, but they connect, like you can see this has to connect with something, right? So what if you had one of these and you were trying to connect it? They're kind of odd shapes to come together, right? So there's all kinds of tricks you have to learn. That's why the learning curve is higher. They don't just substitute totally. They have to be integrated in a certain way. But once you learn that, you're good at it, then there's no reason. But yeah.
Do they sell specialized hardware for iJoists at all? Like for connection?
Yeah, and the joist holders. Oh yeah. So if you take the framing class, well, I don't know. If you took the framing class as I taught it, I'm going to give my stuff to the new guys. Yeah. There's a whole couple of weeks on framing hardware. So you'd see what these look like. They're always coming up with new versions of this. Some of them you don't even nail, they just kind of clip in. They're always trying to make it really handy and fast. And yeah, you got to know that. See, that's the thing now. The material is so specific and so varied, you really have to know the hardware well. So you have to actually study that. So I have a unit. I used to have the Simpson Strong Tie guy come. I think Rodney or Jim's had some reps come to their class. Yeah, they used to give workshops like in town. They give them in Toledo, and you go to one of the hotels and they give you breakfast, and then they just have this slideshow of all their products and they give you a free, book with all their stuff and little toys and stuff just so you buy. Of course, nobody else sells that stuff, so you're not going to be able to buy anything else but Simpson. But you'd actually learn some stuff. You get a free breakfast. It's totally worth it. But I haven't seen it lately. Those things come and go. That's a good question though, because the hardware. Oh, there's a couple extra books. Yeah, why don't you ask me if they want. Next door I have some. I'll get some.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Hardware for next class. I know.
What type of one they take?
Now that you ask.
No, it's on.
Okay, what else?
I got a
So,
patch pen. I still use that pen.
thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, I think.
So you can see the blocking. You have to have blocking so many feet because you hold the boards parallel so they don't waver too much. So if you were doing a takeoffs, it's like an order thing for the material lumber takeoff. You just, they have computer programs for this that they use, the big companies. But if you were doing this by hand, this would be an easy one to do because you just count up the number of joists, how long they are. You don't even worry about the spacing. You're just ordering the material. So that thing like this is pretty straightforward. You have to make sure you have enough wood for blocks in between it. Okay. So that's the floor. There's on the left of that drawing, might be under your little bit of paper. There's some pictures of it says methods for supporting parallel partitions. So that wouldn't be on a set plan. That's an instructional thing they're giving us. So if you have the next floor above this, this is the floor of the first floor. And if you have walls on that first floor, the main floor, that are crossing across the joist, then you're fine because every 16 or 2 feet there's a support for that wall. But if they're going parallel to those joists, this gives you the probabilities or the possibilities, and you have to account for them. So the bottom one, the wall is right over the space, right in the middle of that 16 or 2 foot center. And so that's too weak. Whatever flooring you had wouldn't hold a heavy wall that may be holding the roof or something above it. So you'd have to put blocking in across there under that wall. And if it's just a little bit on the A example, just a little bit off center of this thing, you might want to sister up a board next to it, add a little more support. So those are different possibilities to it.
Sorry.
And then that B is kind of a channel, same reason. So if you can't understand something in the framing plan, you need to go to other plans in the direction of where that problem is. So if you don't know why that would work in a basement, you would go to a foundation plan and see if there's any note there. They would, if you had like some of these are girders, like in that bedroom, you have a set of joists, 2x10s of 24, and then you have some more joists that go into the living room. But then there's a girder that they're both hanging on. And this says continuous 1 3/4 inch by 11 1/4 inch LVL on the right there. So that's like this stuff on the end of that. It's this kind of stuff, laminated. But then if you want to know if there are pockets in the concrete that accepted those, then you go to the foundation plan, you check that area out. Also, you check the floor plan out, because sometimes you wonder why, like we were wondering why the bathroom might have shorter. Well, you could look at the bathroom and go, well, there's a tub there, maybe, you know, and it would give you more information, you know, why people did what they did in designing and springs. Okay. So what I want you to do for homework this week is look at the plans. You have a set on the internet, right? And look at this whole floor framing plan and all the notes and see if you understand them. If it's obvious, it's a piece of hardware, you have to understand it. Anything that you don't understand, write it down and bring it to class. It may not be, we have the test next time, but after that, we'll look at it.
Yeah, for the test.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we are.
Bring all your.
No, I was saying we're gonna stop at a certain time, so we have enough time. So floor plan, you check against the framing plan, against the foundation plan. Because sometimes you think they're hard to figure out. I have my doubts about this. There's so many weird things. I'm not sure if it's real or somebody just imagined it. But go to page 7. We have a ceiling framing plan. So what's between a floor and a ceiling? Yeah, wall. So this doesn't have a wall framing plan. Most plans do not, because there's not too much variation in the walls. You have studs on center, and you have windows and door openings. So that thing should be, that's pretty much all you need to know. And then the floor plan tells you where those openings are. So there's really no mystery to walls. So they usually skip them. But you can, as you can see, ceilings and floors and roofs. So I think that's the roof thing are really important. There's a lot more going on. So this is the ceiling framing plan. There's really only one floor in this house, but there's that giant open area with a cupola on top, that little bird cage on top. So it's got a lot of height, but it's still one room, and all the other rooms are normal first floor rooms. So it's just more framing. It doesn't look as complex, does it, as the other floor? That's because there's very little dead weight and live weight on this. That's probably attic space. So the main floor is where all your furniture and appliances and people are. So those are the stronger floors.
What are the 812 triangles?
Oh, what?
The 812 triangles on the right of kitchen pantry.
On the
On the right.
on the A6, that ceiling framing.
Yeah, 812 triangles. Yeah, the 812.
We're on the plan.
Oh,
No, I think it's on the right one.
you're on sheet 7, right?
Right.
7 and 12, yeah.
Yeah, like right, like to the right of the kitchen and the pantry. There's like some.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Rise and run?
Yeah.
What is that for?
Yeah, good observation. So when you show, we're going to talk about this later too. the architect has to show the slope of the roof,
Okay.
right? And the construction learns it as so many feet this way and then so many feet up, and connect that, and that's the triangle slope of the house.
Mm.
So it goes on a plan that looks straight at a house, so you can see the slope of the roof, and then they put the triangle right next to that. We'll look at that. If you go to the elevation, you'll see it. But they have it here because it's an open ceiling, and if it's a cathedral ceiling or vaulted ceiling, they call it, so it hugs the roof, so it's kind of the same slope. If it was just an attic and they had a straight ceiling, then you wouldn't need that, but they're telling you how that's sloping down on the inside as well. That's a good observation at 812. When we go outside and look at the elevations, we'll see it's 812 showing out there too. So they've got skylights. Okay, go to 8 of 12. It's the last frame down the roof frame. Now, go to there's no picture. See the house is linear. It goes vertically and horizontally. It's kind of rectangular. And then notice the garage at the left. That's that square going to the left. Notice how it's canted. It's twisted. It's oriented slightly differently. That really makes everything pain in the ass, right?
Mm.
So look at that roof. Because those two roofs meet in one this huge garage, it's a complicated roof. So a good roof framer, like Eric could figure that out, how the roofs would have to meet. But most roof framers aren't that smart. So the architect usually has to kind of carry that through, so you get an idea. But I'll show you, it looks complicated, right? You got all these lines going in angles, but I'll show you, when we look at the faces of them and the elevations, I'll show you why it's complicated. I don't know why they did that. They didn't need to. And then look at the middle of this page 8. It says, see cupola roof framing. It's a whole like a box. So that's an opening that goes up through the roof to that little cupola on top. So we look at the elevation. Look at that. But that's goes all the way down to the floor. It's just this open area. Okay, so we're going to go back to framing throughout the semester. We'll get other plans, and each time we get a new set of plans, we'll kind of look at the things that does really well. I pick those plans to illustrate something better. This is pretty good for framing right here. So let's go then to the next thing, which is elevation. That was early on. It's not usual, but this set of plans hasn't. Yeah, on the second page. So go to page 2 of 12 and 3 of 12. We'll be looking at both of those because there's 4 cardinal points, there's 4 views. Most houses don't have funny faces. That looks even worse in elevation. I just got the framing thing. Yeah, look at this. Look at the complexity of this house. So when you look at elevation, always have the floor plan ready to go to. So page 6 of the floor plan, so keep something in there or your hand, because sometimes you don't know what an elevation is telling you, and you can go to floor plan. Sometimes you figure it out. Not always. So look at this top, what direction? South elevation, right? The whole top of this page 2 of 12. Got the garage on the left. So this is looking at it. This is south elevation, but it happens to be the main elevation. Obviously, you're going to drive into it this way and go into the garage. And it's got the entry. So this is the front of it. It's pretty long, but you can't tell the depth of it, right? It's got a lot of in and outs in this house. If you look at the floor plan, so flip back to A5. You got to be able to do this. A5, 6 of 12. If you look at the front, it's not easy to read, but we can do it. there. Yes. So put one hand in 6 of 12 and the other one in 2 of 12. Put a 6 of 12 right now, because that elevation is just two-dimensional. You can't see the depth. Where the drawings are. But the floor plan will give us the depth. It'll give us the shape of the front of the house. 6 of 12. So if you look at there's a covered porch. So the bedroom on the right sticks out in front. And then their porch is recessed, and then there's a 6 or 8 foot, 8 foot porch, and then the front door. And then there's a deck, so that porch goes into a deck which joins with the garage. Then in the back, see that dining room sticks out again the same way. There's a deck. So it comes back in toward the living room, and then the bedroom sticks out on the other side. So you kind of get an idea of the shape of the house from the air. And that'll help you when you go to your elevation, figure out what it looks like, because it's all, you can't tell, right? So now you can see the port for the front door is right in the middle, and you know that that's recessed. Those windows are 8 feet behind the post and the railing there. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. This right side, I'm not sure they did it right. I've been wrestling with that all day trying to figure it out. But see that little thing on top, that cupola? If you look at the east elevation, which is to the lower right, it's from that, the right side looking toward the house. Then you see the side of that cupola. You see it has a little slanted roof, little view roof, fairly flat, 312, and nothing on each end. And then on the side, it's got windows and all that's open up. So it brings in light into that living room. So it probably looks nice, see those. They can be nice. I think these have electric opening windows, awning windows, automatic water and thermostatic sensors. So those windows, because you can't reach them, right? They're way up. So when it senses rain, they close. It's got a rain sensor. And if it needs air, it's probably, you probably have a manual electric switch below, and if the house is stuffy, you can just open those. And that's really great because all hot air goes up and out.
That's what we have in our greenhouse.
You have that?
And in our greenhouses, when,
Yeah.
when it gets like super hot,
Yeah.
it just opens
Yeah.
the window. When
Yeah,
it's
that's
super
pretty-
cold.
It's pretty cool, especially when you can't reach it, or
It's
anyway, it's good, but yeah, when you can't reach it, it's nice. Okay, so let's go back to the elevation, because that's what we want to talk about. So each view of the house is put there. So we have the front view, the right side view. The next page, 3 of 12, has the back of the house view. And then it has 2 other side views, because the garage went away. So they have one view, the west, which would just be from the left side, I mean, from the right side, no, left side. And then I don't know what this is here. This is the same view, but they put the garage out of the way. They just remove the garage, so you can see more of the porch detail. See, it's the same view. See the cupola on top and the roof? It's the same view of the building, but the garage hides. The garage comes all the way under that little vent by the peak of the house, and you can't see anything behind it. And if they want to show you the slope of the roof and what the skylight looks like and what the porch and the stairwell look like, you can't do it unless you remove that garage. So they theoretically, imaginarily remove the garage. So, they'll do that. So you might have an extra view just to cover more detail. So, so we're going to have questions on elevations and framing plans and that, and we'll get to that. But that's why I wanted to do this first, so we know what we're talking about. So the 2 best views. This will be a question. The 2 best views to find out what the shape of the house is, or what do you suspect? What?
Front.
Yeah, front or all sides, but elevation. And it is good. You can see what it is. And what do you suppose the other one was? We just talked about floor plan. Because if you can't tell the depth, floor plan helps you know, this way where it's receiving or not. I mean, if you look at this front, it looks all the same depth, but we know it's got all kinds of differences there. So those 2 plans really define it. If you want to just see what the damn house looks like, the shape, go to those 2 plans, and that'll give you your basic idea. Then you got a million details after that you have to go look at. But you really need to get an overall shape, because otherwise you'll just be confused a lot of the time. So look at these 2 of 12. That's the first one. Look at the, okay. Yeah. See that 2 of 12 at the bottom of this elevation? That's looking at this house from the right-hand side. Yeah? Well, yeah, that wasn't a question. The question is, did you understand what I said? So we're looking at it from the right, that way. So we can see the side of the cupola, but also the front. This is an interesting thing. Look at that. What do you suppose that doorway is with the kind of old-fashioned top to it on the left of that
The
view?
garage.
Yeah, it's the garage door, which you see up above. But why is it so much smaller?
Tractor mower or something.
No, that's a regular garage door on the upper picture.
Oh,
The actual garage is.
Because it's slanted, so it's foreshortened, right? But that's not a true drawing. You know, it wouldn't look like that. You could never see this in real life. Because if you stand at a place, you've got, your eyes are this wide, right? So you're gonna look out, so you've got perspectives and everything going. Even a camera wouldn't look like this, but this is, they just draw this with all dimensions, and because it's close to how we see and how a camera sees, we can figure it out, but it's not a real picture at all. You never will see this. It shows everything the same. If you stand in front of that house, what you see in front of you is gonna be the most clear, and the largest one is gonna dwindle as it goes this way, but this is all the way across the same detail, the same, lines and everything. So you got to know that an elevation is similar to a photo, but not like photo or perception, but it doesn't matter in this case. But this is where you really see it. You would never see, because this shape is still looks like it's looking straight on. And if you looked at that garage at an angle, it wouldn't look like that. It would be distorted a whole nother way. You guys can probably figure that out. I don't know that. But I couldn't tell what that was. I thought that was a side door to the garage. At first, it was a little door on the side, like Eric said, for lawnmowers and stuff. And I thought, and then I looked at the floor plan, there's nothing there. No door, and I went, uh-oh. So that's where the floor plan comes in. I look at the floor plan, and I goes, where's the freaking door? Oh my God, it's the garage, it's the main door. And the reason it wasn't obvious is because it's not drawn accurately. It's
yeah,
not foreshortened like.
panels are different.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking straight on, and they just reduce the size, and that's not how foreshortening works, so that garage at a slant causes a lot of problems, so anyway, that's the way it is. And even this front view of the garage on the top, the door, that door is facing you, but the garage isn't facing you, it's tilted at an angle, right? And yet that door looks like it's coming straight at you. So that's not even totally accurate. There's no way, when people are taught, the convention for an elevation is not to use any foreshortening. It's just to draw whatever the dimensions are on the floor plan. You just copy that and make an elevation. And everyone understands that. If you had to do it the right way, oh my God, it would be so difficult. I mean, maybe you could get a machine that could do it for sure, computer. But we've done it this way for so long because it's the easiest way to do it, and most people can understand. So the elevation tells you a lot of things. It tells you what the house looks like, for one, and then it tells you what all the exterior materials are, because there's no other place to put that, right? The floor plan you could, but you couldn't point it very well, because if something was low or high, the floor plan wouldn't tell you. So if you had an arrow to that wall saying there's brick, you wouldn't know where the hell the brick was. But here, there's the brick, there's the clad, whatever. So it's really important, and it gives notes usually and tells you what that material is, so you can order it. So this has got on that bedroom that comes in, it says there's an arrow. This is the upper picture to the right. It says PVC trim color white. So it's giving you that detail right there. And what do we call that statement?
Call
Huh?
Call out.
Call, that's good. Or annotation, remember? We said annotation, objects, annotation, dimensions. That'll be on the test too. So a plan basically has three things. You can analyze anything any way you want, right? Somebody came up with this. It's comprehensive. It covers everything that's on there. And I just thought it's kind of interesting Because actually you can talk about it. If everybody knew the word annotation, then you go, what's the annotation of that? And they would go right to the written thing and they'd know what you're talking about. So it actually could be useful vocabulary. But so every plan has objects. This has roofs, doors, has dimensions. Less dimensions on maybe none on an elevation. Okay, yeah, there's some. And then annotation, notes, pointing to things.
Wait, so what was the third thing you said?
Those are three things.
Annotation, objects, and what was the third?
Dimension. Yeah. Those are the main things you're interested in. So this has lots of notes. Some of these notes would be on a normal set. Some of these are again educational. But standing seam metal roof.
Annotation, objects, dimension.
Thank you.
Yeah. I put it on the other day and I said, not everybody uses this, but it's just kind of a way to make you think about what's included in it. Can you guys see that? No, you can't.
Now, you guys need some better markers and some better
Well, we've got
erasers.
tons. We're just lazy. We've got like 500,
Yeah.
And you know what? I bet, no, he did. I'm gonna blame him. He takes a lot of stuff over there. You gotta do that. The guys at home will never see this.
Anybody at home?
Objects.
Zach, the Ramirez's stayed home. They came in contact with someone with COVID, so they're being dutiful and not coming to class.
Yeah,
Love
that's good.
Yeah.
So, and I invited Memphis, but I don't know if he can make it. So objects, dimensions. And
The one you were talking about last.
annotation.
You have to go to the lab.
Yeah.
Give this in class.
Yeah, let's see.
It's too far.
So, look, they even have the concrete foundation. They show a little circle with 8x16 split face concrete masonry block. That's not ordinary. But it's that type of thing they put on. They possibly would put a little detail like this fence post base here. I don't know. You don't see that too often. They're just trying to cram everything they want you to know about this stuff. But anyway, so elevations give you a picture of the house, and then they show you where things are, where windows are, and they have notes on the materials. Any facing, roof facing stuff will be noted on these. And actually anything, it'll have an annotation on anything that no other view has. If it can't be seen somewhere else, or it would be too confusing somewhere else, they'll stick it on. They'll stick it on wherever it goes. So. Okay, then on the next page, what was I going to say about that? Probably nothing. Yeah, it's just two other views. Okay, so that's pretty good, right? Elevation. Then the next one is sections. So for those, we have to go to we're on a couple of plans. We're on a foundation plan, but let's go to 6 of 12. The floor plan.
Say that again, where are you?
6, page 6. A5. So we talked about this last time, I think. But when you have elevations all outside, right? So if you have something that's the same view, you're looking straight on, like a photograph of your eyes, but it's behind the front wall, it's on the inside. Then you have to use a section. You have to pretend there's a knife cutting the house and pulling it away, and then you can look and see what's inside. So that's what a section does. So this has 3 sections on this floor plan. The foundation has a set of sections too, but we'll look at those later. So there's A, B, and C, and they're a circle with an arrow. And this is black. And then this has two numbers, right? So the top one is the number of the detail or letter or number, and the bottom is the page number, the print number. So that says S1, the one I'm looking at. And B, yeah, B, it probably all, they all say S1. It's only one. So the top number is, the bottom number is where you go. So you go to S1, to plan S1, structural one. And then the top number is on that page, which there might be several. This one is A, B, and C. So there's three sections. So that's, and then this arrow, like we said, they have an arrow because that's the way you're looking when you cut the section. So this bedroom on the right, again, we said this yesterday, Lewis noticed it too. Look at the right, the BS1, you see that on the right side there, cutting through the bedroom, everybody?
For the garage, right?
Oh, so the one on the wall, we see.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
6 of 12. It's, well, two things I want to show you. One is the bottom has the circle with the arrow. And then if you look to the top, it has the other side because you're cutting across the room, right? So it has where the front of the cut is and has the back. It's just a dark line with a dotted line coming off. You see that? So every section should have, I've seen plans where they only have the one. And sometimes they'll have them like this one, they'll stagger them, which is really stupid because you can't cut a staggered section, but do that as it may. So when you find that, look, always follow it across the house to see the extent of that section. So here the BS1 goes all the way up to the top. So it's that whole piece of house that sticks out. They want to show you something. And we discovered, a bunch of us, that it was facing the wrong way.
Yeah.
Now, the reason you know that is if you were to stand in the house and look to the right, which is what it's telling you to do, you would see the walk-in closet to your right. True?
Yeah.
But if you go to that view, if you go to S1, it's on the left. So something's not right. So, so you just, if you just reverse that and have the arrow pointing in toward the house, that would be what you'd see, I think. Yeah.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, you see that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So they made a mistake. You can usually figure it out, but it's important that you get that right because there may not be something when it's pointing the other way that the same, and they're trying to show you something where it's pointing. So if they point it wrong, you might miss what they're trying to show you. So this is, as far as I can tell, this section is the roof they're concerned about. Mostly it's got that, because the roofs are really weird in this house. So it's got a, it's showing you what that truss, it's a tapered truss. Crawl space, it doesn't much matter. Oh, but here you go though. Remember we said the joists, if they're different size, they stick down in the crawl space. You can see the 2x6 on the left and the 2x8 on the top, and one sits down further into the basement. So you don't really need that information, but if you were wondering why they were making a different widths and what they were doing about that, that's what it would show. Okay. Now, well, let's go. Oh, you know what? No, go back to that section. Maybe. Oh, yeah. So go to A1, 2 of 12, just real quickly.
A1?
Yeah. Now, see on the roof, Dr. Santana told us that the roof has a triangle. No, was it you or you? Yeah, you were asking about it, but you said it was for the roof pitch, right? Okay. Let's see above the roof on the left, there's a triangle next to the garage roof, and it says 812 on it.
Yeah.
So that's what they put the slope here because this is where the roof slope shows. And if you go to another elevation, like the lower right-hand one, the east elevation, you'll see the 312, the cupola is less sloped. It's a flatter roof than the main roof. And then they'll also show the 12.8 again. And they don't close the triangles. You know, it's like a triangle missing a hypotenuse. That's technically, sometimes I draw a triangle, but technically it's like that. Anybody would know what it was filled in the. So that's what, it should tell you the slope of every roof. The bedroom that projects out toward the front, that's also 12.8, and most roofs will be parallel, so they'll all be the same slope. A cupola you can get away with because that's kind of a look where it's got this little half-assed little thing up there. Occasionally it'll be sloped, but usually they don't want to stick up so high, so those are often less sloped, but everything else seems like it's 812. So, okay, I wanted to show you that. It's usually on there. If they have a section of that has you can see the roof slope, they may have it on the section, but it's got to be a horizontal view of something that, because they match it with the slope, so you know where it is. Okay, so we'll go back to floor plan, right? We're looking at sectional. So that B, as soon as we got it straightened out, we saw, and I don't know, you know, it doesn't matter what we're trying to show. If you had a question, you look on there. But let's look at some of the other sections. So there's one through the main house. And what's that one called? The river. No, but what's the section number called? Oh, there. So A goes right down the middle of the house. You can see the other side of the section is a little off. They're supposed to be lined up. No. The guy was coming back from a really bad weekend. 1 inch didn't mean as much as the other one. So let's look at, you can kind of bet this has got something to do with that great room in the cupola, right? Because that's a weird thing. And it does. And this is one of the more interesting parts of the house. So go to S1. We'll go to that. It says number A section on page S1. So we'll go to S1 and we'll look at A, which is to your upper left. Now you can see the cupola. Now you can see what that inside looks like. Pretty grand, huh? But this is the construction. They got a fan, of course, because it gets hot up here. They can do it one way and get rid of stuff, and then they need to. If it's winter, they want the heat. They want to push the heat back down again. So it's reverse the fan. You know they do that, right?
They do?
Yeah, fans will go both ways. Most fans. And if you're just trying to get the stuff out, like in the summer, then you just have it go up and out. You reverse it and close the windows. And any hotter that rises, will push it back down, and you can use that heat again. So, but look at this construction; it's really interesting. You know, this thing's floating in air. You know, because there's no walls underneath the cupola, because that's in the middle of the room, right? The whole idea is you got this open space. So, and it's hard to tell here because you're only looking at one dimension. But see those double 1 3/4 LVL girder in? That's, you're looking at the end of a girder. So that whole room has a giant beam on each side. And here it doesn't, you don't see the end. So you go, what is that floating in air? But it's really a beam. And that beam, big as it is, it's two of these giant 2x, they don't give the width, but they're 2x12s or 10s, are supporting a little wall. Actually, they're supporting the wall and roof of that cupola, right? I mean, what else is there? That's the foundation for this cupola. And it's where the rafters, both the inner rafter and the outer rafter, hang. One hang on the wall above it and one hangs on the beam.
So is all this space behind the ventilation, that's all just wasted in the attic?
Yes, I think so.
Wow.
I think it's, yeah, to make the room look grand, they thought that would be better. That's what I believe. Let's double check. I'm pretty sure. I mean, to confirm that, you'd have to look at some other parts of the plan, but that's what I remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen the microwave come as tall as 30 inches
Yeah.
and I triple them up, span like 30 feet almost.
Yeah. This doesn't look that, these aren't that big. I mean, if we take your scale, what do we got? 1/4 inch
I
scale,
don't
yeah.
even tell you the height of it there. That's you just see double inch and 3/4.
Right. So that they're fat. They're like a 2x4 widthwise.
Two of them put together is a 2x4.
Yeah. And the thickness, I guess you'd say, is almost 2 feet. If I'm reading this right. Am I reading this right? Yeah. Yeah, 1 or 2 feet. That's pretty good size, right?
Yeah.
2 by 4, that's a good size beam. And the room's not that wide this way, I don't think. We can check that out. But I thought that was really interesting, because it's kind of floating up there, you know? Oh, well, people do that stuff all the time. Architects love this design, that kind of stuff. But you really need this section to have any clue of what's going on. There's no way you could do it from a floor plan. Speaking of floor plans, let's look at the floor plan. No, it's not gonna do anything. Where do we get a better look at that cupola? Where? Maybe a roof frame? What do you think?
Maybe over there you can.
Oh, yeah, okay.
length of
Roof
the-
frame plan, A7, 8 of 8, 8 of 12. Because, you know, framing plan should have something about it. So 8 of 12 on that is a roof framing plan, and if you look where that area is, the cupola. See, it's not so wide, right? It's 14 feet. That's not good. It's, no, it's 20 feet. Wow. 19 feet. So that girder is 20 feet long, 3.5 wide, 2 of them together, 3.5 wide and 2 feet. But apparently it's good enough to hold that up. Yeah, it's a, it's interesting, you know, spell out the width. The little ones are good. I mean, so you can see where the girder hangs on sidewalls. And then that's it. Basically, that line. Monday and Tuesday, I have a night class. It's Tuesday, that's the part of it. Okay.
If you wonder where would those beams, what would you use to support those beams? Where would you go? Like those LVLs,
Yeah,
they have to sit on something that is strong, right?
yeah, so. Where's that? Yeah. If you look at the section, which is the main on 9 of 12, that's, as soon as you see that section on the floor plan in that place, you say, okay, that's what they're gonna show me what that looks like. But because it's only from one dimension, you're seeing the end of those beams. So it looks, you know, it looks like it's just floating. You don't even, at first, you don't even know what those are.
Right.
You just see that little 2-foot.
If you look at the foundation plan,
Yeah.
they actually got 4 separate footers that are carrying posts going up to the bottom of those.
Where those beams rest
Yeah,
on the wall.
that's-
Great.
That's all stackable
So,
for
perfect.
carrying points. on the
Yeah.
people.
So that's where you go next, because he's right, the foundation's got to support all that eventually. So I was gonna wait for the foundation, but I'm glad you pointed that out. So if you go to A3 or 4 of 12,
They got you- that's the block unit
and you
there
can
and
see right in the middle there. Is that those 2? Oh, there's 4, yeah. There's 4 squares, let's see.
everything.
See where it says sealed crawl space? To the left and right of that is a target. Both on a footing, right?
Right.
Eric?
Yeah,
Those 4, right?
yeah, the dotted lines that
Yeah.
are square along that
Yeah.
long beam going across the middle.
Yeah,
But then there's 4 on that, but then there's 4 more that are offset that have little circles inside of it. And the circle indicates the posts
yeah,
coming up. Sometimes some people call them mono posts, some,
right.
it might be a 6x6.
Right. So like I said, we're gonna look at this separately later, but there's an annotation to that post, like he was saying, to the left there in dark, it says 4 post supports for roof girders. 4-inch steel column, 36 by 36 by 18 concrete footing. So that's a pretty.
And if you glance through the pages, you can kind of see that's right on the same distance away from that front wall as the,
On the
yeah, you can
on the
see,
floor plan or the,
well, like if you glance right to the next page, you can see that lines up right where that indication that the double,
oh, yeah,
yeah,
on your
and then you
framing
go
plan.
on to the ceiling and
Yeah.
still, and they're all, so that you pretty much got to calculate right off the jump where that cupola is going to be and put all your blocking in and
Yeah.
everything like that.
Yeah, so you go, so when you were building it, I mean, there's two things you do. First, you just try to get a grasp of the building. Then you got to learn all the parts because you got to actually build it. So he's a little bit ahead, but that's what we do. We'd say, okay, so now that we know how this is all lining up, what do we need for a foundation on up? And then we go to foundation, and he's right, the framing plan shows you all, so the framing plan is showing you stuff from the foundation. And sometimes they show stuff over on top of the floor and sometimes under the floor, so you gotta kind of figure it out. And you can see the blocking. It's on the A4, 5 of 12, the floor framing plan, you can see the dotted lines, and it's the one with the blocking around it, so it's because there's 4 of them, so it's got to be those 4.
Right.
There's blocks going across.
Install blocking.
Install blocking under first floor.
And then it says 4 places, so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
all for that varying points of
Right.
improvement.
So you got the foundation, what kind of footing you need, you got the type of pole, then you got the frame, how it's coming up to the framing, you got that. And then there probably, well, so you don't have wall framing and we don't have a section. Well, let's see if there's something on the section. Where was that? That one. No. It's going the opposite way of those other plans, this section, but it still doesn't have anything in the. Yeah. Well, see, under crawl space, it has a 4-foot steel column there. That's probably the type of thing, but it's in the wrong place. It should be right under those beams. And maybe it's misdrawn, or maybe they just left it out, and that's another one, or something else, right? Yeah. So that's what you have to do. You have to trace out all the way through the house, from the foundation to the roof. To understand it. We can't do it all at once, so we're gonna do the foundation later, the foundation plans. And if we'd done that later, we would have come back and said, this is how you see it. So it's fine to do it now. It's great that we brought that, pointed that out. Yeah, so this is a good plan because it's a little more complicated than your middle class, suburban home. So it's a little more challenging, so that's good. Okay, let me see. I actually have a plan. Elevate framing, elevation section. Break, it says. My God, I gotta keep you for another 5 minutes. I said quarter after, so. Let's look at the one last section, which would be C, the garage section. So floor plan, A5, 6 to 12. And when it cuts the garage in half and cuts the back, and it's looking towards the back. So it says go to S1, section C. That's on the bottom left. And what do you suppose that's pointing out? The loft. See that loft in there? Storage loft. And it's got a got a set of collar ties and a blah, blah, blah. And now this foundation, see where the walls are and it has the footing, that could be a detail on a detail page. They wouldn't necessarily have to put in a section. So that varies, but tells you what kind of a footing and stem wall is required. And then where fire blocking is and any lead in braces and so.
I've never seen this, but remember we were talking about the different height floor joists
Yeah,
in cross section B? They actually show a little dotted angled line, so, they're actually hanging.
yeah,
Like, there's the 11, 7,
Yeah,
18,
yeah.
there's a 2x10. But the weird thing is they have that 2x6 hanging like off of a rim joist too. It's not even touching the foundation
yeah,
there. But
Yeah.
I guess the rim joist.
yeah, that's right. So I was talking earlier about pockets, but one of the reasons they don't have pockets, because a lot of foundations block wall, right? So you can't make the same kind of pocket as you would a concrete wall. Yeah, yeah, they'll just, can you imagine, there's a million of those details, right, Eric? I mean, you haven't noticed that one, but.
But yeah, it would have pockets to accommodate that 11, 7, 8 micro.
Right, but when you were framing this, you look at the foundation, you'd notice that there was a rim joist, and then this was hung on it rather than resting against the block, or even the mill or the mud sill below it. So that's, yeah, I don't know why,
It seems weird,
yeah, who knows why they did it, but it's great for us because it's an unusual thing. We can discover it and talk about it.
If you ask the builder, say, I don't want to deal with that, just order 2x10s all around. I mean, of course, you're not gonna substitute the I-beams for,
No,
Regular
no, but
beams,
you could probably go to the architect, who would then go to the client and say the builder wants to make this different, but it's not gonna show or anything. Yeah, you could probably do that. I'm sure a lot of builders would do that, because they want us, the contractors and the guys who's in charge of the actual building, it may not be the contractor himself, might be the superintendent or whatever. He'll want his crew to not have any trouble. So if he finds something that's too picky and weird, he would probably go to the architect and say, hey, look, for purposes of time, we get this faster, we just make this simpler, do this, Yeah, so they can negotiate that. Usually they're okay with the stuff. I mean, they have to make sure it is structurally equivalent, but, which might hold them up, because it used to be you could make that decision yourself, because most contractors know that intuitively. Now you might have to get the city to, and they would send to a structural engineer.
oh, no.
Yeah, it's like that. So that would end up costing a lot more because you spend time. So they'd say, no, we want to spend that, do it that way.
Right.
Yeah, so that can be a problem.
How much time does it normally take for mod to get approved?
Oh, God, that varies. To the town you're in.
And then COVID had things so backed up.
COVID, they didn't even come in. You had to do everything by internet. They never answered. I mean, that was the worst.
Or
That was just bad. Because, you go down there, at least you eventually grab a guy and say, look, what do you think about that? But on the internet and the phone, I mean.
We change stuff all the time, but, we know like usually what's required as far as code.
Yeah,
Just go a little overkill,
yeah. And yeah, if you go over and then there's no argument. I mean, there's no reason why they would argue. It's structurally the same.
Always try to have an engineer friend just in case you need to make calls.
Yeah. And engineers take time too. I got a great guy I use, and he's pretty quick if you can get a hold of him. He does it. That's a great job, except you work in an office all day.
$1,000 for that call.
Well, there's a few reasonable guys in town. Most of them charge a lot more than they need to, but it's the same thing. They have intermittent work, so they, they're not getting money all the time, so they have to charge to make it work. And rent's so high here. But I have a guy that's on where the Target is, and where the bike place used to be in Cadario's is now. It's above that. There's a whole bunch of offices above that. I don't know if you never noticed, you would notice. He's in one of those. They're really drab old offices, but it's probably the cheapest rent in town. All he needs is a table, and he's got a secretary over there, and he's got a table with pens. So it's a cool little. Whenever you see a cool little job like that, that's self-contained, and you go to school and learn some little engineering, and then you can just do this the rest of your life. I think it's pretty cool. It is sitting down all day. But it's gone that way. They used to trust builders more. And I think either there's been more litigation or bureaucracies just inherently get more complicated. That's just the way they grow. Okay, let's take a break. And then we'll have plenty of time to do the thing. We'll come and then we'll go. Because this has been a lot tonight. And then we'll come back to this. We'll because we're gonna look at other examples and other plans, so we'll be going over all this stuff again and again. And all the weird exceptions there are. to it. Hey, we're gonna come back at 7:30 and we'll whip out the midterm review.
Sure. Glad to hear you got that job too. Wait, okay. Would they have like a driver or a helper? Okay. But they haven't got everybody.
Great thing about that plan.
There's a helper in there, man.
Chris,
Yeah, man.
really readable. A lot of plans.
That's usually a career job there.
Hey man, I'm leaving the construction field. I'm going to Marburg.
Oh, that's, well, you can still do this side.
That's
Yeah,
good, that's still construction.
I'm still building cabinets on my house though. I'm making a kitchen for my friends.
But a job at Marbury, they're
Oh, it's
probably
always
hard to
good.
find, aren't they? That's a pretty. tough
Yeah,
job.
that's why I left right now because the HR was calling me. I'm good to go.
Yeah, wow, great.
Nice.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah, I don't think you're leaving the carpentry.
Nah,
I mean, it's,
no, I love it. I do it as a hobby now. I just do stuff at home. Like I
right,
said, I need to finish that kitchen and then I have 2 more jobs lined up after that.
nice.
Out of my garage.
What's your schedule gonna look like, sort of, do you have an idea, or?
They told me it's from 5:45 to depending 3 or 4, so maybe like 10, 11 hours.
Oh, yeah, those guys, they
They
told
work-
me they do a
So
lot
what
of
do you, if you do
overtime.
11 hours, you do partial week, you don't do the whole week?
No, you
they
still,
do
you,
overtime,
they pay you the overtime.
Really?
You work my brother-in-law works there and he works sometimes 115
Oh, that's brutal.
in a week, but
And
he,
the rate-
but he works on Saturdays too, that's why.
Well, yeah, I mean, can you get less than that if you want to? You say this is too much, can I?
I'm pretty sure you can, but,
Yeah, but I mean, it's good money too, right?
oh yeah, he,
So you know, if you need the money, then.
I mean, he's
Yeah, for a
made,
while.
this year he made between, I think he said 86. But because of all the overtime, He-
Still,
he
that's
gets
good.
paid 28 an hour
Nice.
to make 86, that's pretty good.
Yeah. You kidding?
See, he made a bunch of overtime.
Yeah, even my sister's thinking about going to part-time because, well, he makes too much.
Your who?
My sister,
Okay,
who the one she's married to,
okay.
yeah, she's thinking about going to part-time.
Is she doing Marv or?
No, she does stuff for HOAs. She handles like a bunch of HOAs.
HOAs, homeowners associations.
Association.
Okay.
For a certain company,
Yeah, up in Ventura.
and they have property here?
I'm not sure,
Yeah,
but
because we just got a new, I live in an HOA, we just got a new property manager, so,
yeah, they do. Well, yeah, she handles a bunch of properties, so,
yeah.
and she's always on.
That's a
call.
great job too. And there's a lot of crappy ones out there that, you know, there's so much work, they never have enough employees, you know, 'cause they
Yeah.
try to cut corners to make money. It might be hard to make money, but all the homeowners get pissed off, you know, if
Yeah.
they don't get stuff done. I mean, it's just,
Yeah, but she's on top of it from what I've noticed. She's always on the phone.
yeah.
Always
Well,
on-
I think you could do it really right, it'd be a great job, you know.
Yeah,
You have to make sure the company's gonna, you know, do it right. Mostly right.
yeah. So she's thinking about going part-time.
So that's a good job, because there's a lot of varieties, and a lot of things, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of different problems, you talk to a lot of people.
So we'll definitely see how that goes.
That's gonna go well.
I'm gonna tell my boss tomorrow. I haven't even told him yet.
What is that you're doing right now?
I do apartment maintenance.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, this is gonna be good because now you get, if not full, all those full benefits, right?
So I already get full
Marburg.
benefits, but the benefits on Marburg are even
I
better.
bet,
Oh,
I bet.
Starting off, they give you the 8% 401k.
wow.
Do they offer a medical insurance?
Yeah, they pay for everything.
Yeah, and that's good too, because, I mean, they don't want to fool around if someone gets hurt or strains their back.
Yeah,
they
and
wanna
then
go
just
take care of
just
it.
to add like a family member, let's say your spouse or your.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's only $30.
That's great. That's the way to go.
Yeah, my current insurance, if you add somebody, it's like 300 and something. Yeah, I was like, nah, I'm not gonna add it. And for
Wow.
myself, it's $40, man.
That's what you would be paying
Yeah,
on,
family plans are the
Yeah,
greatest.
for right now, but if I,
oh, right now.
for
okay.
Marburg, it's nothing.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
Good, hope you like the job actually, and then you feel comfortable, and then the things that you are saying that you like will add up, and then you say it's worth the effort and the opportunity.
If you still working in Ventura?
Ventura?
Yeah, you were in the Ventura, right? As a project manager, or something like that?
Oh, at a no.
Were you helping the construction guy?
I'm just working for a construction company right now. I am just full-time with a local construction company. I'm just doing my side gigs, restaurants, but you know, something, you know, not great. Yeah, good for you.
We'll get it sorted.
All right.
So hopefully that thing worked for him, but,
We'll check after. I don't want you to do more, just to check, see if it
well, I
works.
tried looking at the profile picture and the vaccine card picture, and I didn't see anything. And when I uploaded the vaccine card picture, it said to upload a picture of the back of it too.
Yeah.
So,
You know, also they have a thing where you send in a picture of your vaccination, and then they have a whole list that you have to take the information.
oh yeah, I saw that too. And I was like, I'm not doing this.
I'm not doing it either. It's like, don't we pay someone to do that? I mean, come on.
I don't remember.
I don't remember that
having
either.
to do that.
I don't know. That
Back
might
when-
be something new, but it seems stupid.
That seems very stupid.
So, we'll check.
You know why they're doing
You know,
it?
he doesn't have a computer, so we can't have him verify stuff because,
He's just gotta go in. And
he's just in a hard place. Yeah, but he works. So that's why I've got to go by I got to go by campus every so often. I could do it.
You know why they're probably doing that? Because people are probably faking the
Of
vaccine
course,
cards.
of course.
Yeah.
But you could trust your faculty, right?
Yeah.
They were vouching for something. Maybe not.
I don't know.
They trust me. They just don't like me.
There's a lot of people at this institution that just kind of don't like to do a lot.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
Just like everywhere.
hard to get people to do what they say they're gonna do.
That's what's great about Mike Ganella.
Yes.
God, he's got it so figured out. He just sends you an email and it's perfectly worded. You just answer it, send it back, and that's all. So God, I love that.
Yeah, he's very.
He's so fun to communicate with.
He never answered me for the tickets for, what's it called? Yeah.
Oh, he has you down.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know why he didn't respond.
Yeah, he didn't send anything. Or maybe it just got lost in my spam.
Maybe, I think he had it down.
Yeah, I sent one this afternoon, asked him how to deal with that. And then I realized that he won't know any more than I do. So I thought, you got to go into the site, but I can't do it. He'll have to do it. He doesn't have a computer. It's just complicated as we go.
Yeah, he's.
I didn't think, oh, I'll just get Lewis to do it. I didn't think that at all. I waited till I saw him and I go, oh, actually Lewis could do a better job than I could.
Yeah, I think Mike's ready to not be head of this department anymore.
He's what?
Ready to not be chair
yeah.
of this department anymore.
I've tried not to bother him too much, but usually when I bother him, it's fairly legitimate.
Are you going to campus tomorrow?
Yeah, I work there all day.
Can,
You need something?
work all day, so I can't grab one of those free plants?
Oh, yeah, what do you want? There's not much left.
Is there any cilantro left?
That's all gone. There were like three.
That goes fast.
Those are all gone.
Damn.
People came and took like every. I
I
think all that's
suspect
left
there's
is
no-
like some succulents or something. Just about it. It's mostly faculty, and there was some like really young students.
Everyone was going to work to be free.
Hey, Jose,
People
Ariane and Zach,
Yeah,
are
we
you
don't have
there?
a ton left, but yeah, it's like succulents.
Yeah, I'm here.
Maybe some
How about
really-
Zach, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
I know we're on break, but when we come back from break in like 5 minutes, we're gonna start the midterm prep.
We have
okay?
an octopus down there in my yard,
Yeah,
so
how about you guys know that, that's what we're doing.
my mom was trimming it today, and it's just taken over one side of it.
It's huge.
Yeah. It's like, she put.
Thanks
octopus
anyway.
together, and
I just
the
have-
elm tree right next to each other, you can't get.
Oh.
one tree because
Hey, did you see the
it's
new drinking fountain they got over there?
Bigger than 3 by 3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Next to
That's what
the,
my boss has been telling me.
They didn't have
to do,
one?
and I'm like,
huh?
outlaw
no.
drinking fountains?
They have an old one.
That's a
This
very
was an elementary school,
small
probably 50 years old. They have an old one.
estimate
They just put one right in the bottle, so I think you gotta do that. I haven't tried it.
You know.
It's right to the right of the water machine.
Oh, yeah.
So if
Yeah, you
don't
wouldn't
have a bottle,
notice
though,
No.
Huh?
you gotta have a bottle, right?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I think there's also drinking spray.
Get attacked by the.
But that's the first change I've seen in this place since I've been here. 15 years, nothing much changes.
Other than what you've done,
New one.
other than what you've done.
Yeah, other than what I've done. They did new plumbing. You know that kiosk in the front? As you drive in, there's a little kiosk with the. I did that at a summer school class. And I had a guy that was in the class. He was a little experienced. And I had to be two places at once. I said, okay, you take this guy's out and I want you to dig a hole, but go really slowly and feel your shovel in and make sure there's no pipes under it.
I broke a pipe.
He broke it.
We were at working.
This place was out of water for a week. Everybody hated me because they couldn't use the bathroom.
We were working today somewhere and their drains, the people that put in the drains only had them like 12 feet.
Oh, yeah.
When they're supposed to be 2 feet.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We were using a tractor
Yeah.
and we were so like this close to
Yeah.
like hitting it.
So I should have, you can call the utilities and they'll come out and mark it. I should have done that, but I was in a hurry. So I said, just go slow because, you don't know what's under there. So he just went.
Think about it this way, you almost convinced the school to have no water.
That cost a lot of money to repair it and to rent the porta potties and, oh, man, that's. I felt really bad. What could I do?
That was when you guys built the security kiosk?
No, this one in front here.
Oh,
It's got leaflets on it.
right.
The security asked us if we wanted to build one, but it was too complicated for these classes. You know, had a lot of electronics. and all kinds of shit. I said, I'm interested, but I think it's beyond our.
Supposedly every day, all of us, including you, are supposed to go get a fresh one of these.
Yeah, I mean, I get tested every week and I do that thing and I don't know that you can get it here at 6, right? 5?
Well, no, but you gotta show them your card and then they,
No, I know.
this one says Tuesday, yesterday.
I don't think you have to get tested for it anymore though, because when I do the.
No, you don't have to. I just do it to know if I. Because you're never gonna know, you know? And that nowadays, if you find out, as soon as you find out you're infected, you can get some of those meds that only work for the first few days, so you have a chance.
There's money in construction.
And it just wouldn't go in.
Yeah. Well, there's not money in everything. God, unfortunately, there's
I
some
know nowadays.
really low key stuff still.
I like how we grab it.
I was so lucky when I grew up. Close to, a little bit further back, but the economy was so great, so simple. You didn't need to worry, you could always find work.
Oh,
There was enough.
within 3 years.
So I have trouble, I mean, not a lot of trouble, because I can relate to people have a hard time. It's so different now, it's really hard.
And you could mortgage a house for like less than 300 a month.
Yeah, borrowing the mortgage.
And still make, go in there, what you make nowadays.
Yeah.
Not-
Oh, yeah. No, I know. Well, they say pay hasn't gone up since the 70s. If you account for inflation.
She's really funny.
What is that?
Right.
Cost of living's gone up, I'll tell you that.
No.
Damn,
She's like.
it's so hard. It shouldn't be so hard.
Keep the middle class working.
Yeah, and then they don't revolt.
This is since the best started.
We need a peaceful revolution for sure. We need some big things. That's what I write in here.
You better compete with him for the top.
That's my parting shot. This
Because
place.
you know he's going.
Do you blog or do you actually?
No, books, yeah.
Yeah. I think in all the countries now.
Okay,
I don't know if
Right on
it's
time.
competitive.
so you really need to have your notes out, right? Unless you've got a really great memory, which some of you may have. Okay, so I'm I'm gonna tell you what topics are involved very specifically in each question. If it's a question I think you need more than that, I'll give you, sometimes I'll actually give you the question, but. See, if I was gonna stay here, I wouldn't do it because they don't like to give everyone A's. They think you're a poor teacher if everyone gets A's. In fact, some schools, they'll fire you. If you keep doing that. Like UCSB, you can't do that.
What if every kid is doing good?
Huh?
What if the kids are doing good?
Well, then you're not making it hard enough. You have to make it harder so then only a few get good grades.
Fair enough.
I mean, it's totally stupid. That's how they think. So. Okay, so I'm gonna have you put in order of appearance in the set of plans, the different categories of plans. So you have like civil plans and architectural plans and structural and plumbing, say those 4. And then, you know, your handout, like if you write down those 4, structural, plumbing, architectural, and civil, just go to that first handout that showed the order. That's where you'll have it. Then I want you to list 3 plans and tell me to slow down, but write as fast as you can.
Can you already repeat the?
Oh, no, you don't have you have a pencil?
I'm writing on a notebook.
You are a bad boy.
Bro, I had to make my
Didn't
own
I,
paper.
didn't I say everyone needed to have a pencil and pen? Because you can't text as fast as they can write and I can talk.
I can type pretty fast.
All right. Oh, young people.
Can you say
We
that?
have to accept you because you're the future, so. Only for that reason. When you get my age, you look at the young people and you go, oh my God, I can't believe they're having this. It's a privilege the old people have, okay?
Can you repeat?
All right,
that
the first one you wanted?
Wait, was it civil, structural, plumbing, and architectural?
Yeah, what order?
Okay, I already got it then.
Yeah, what order does that handout say they should go in? I mean, I would say look at a set of plans, but they're not always right. So that little handout has it. Civil's always first, architecture is always second, I'll tell you that. Okay, then I'll have you list 3 types of plans that go in the architectural category. And that you can just take a set of plans. Look at all the A's and give me 3 different types. Anybody know of one architectural plan?
Floor plan.
Floor plan, thank you. That's the easiest one to get. And that's- I don't know. You know, everything we've talked about, the sections and the elevation, those are all A. That's zero. You guys, you don't even have to manipulate. Then I'll ask you why there are worldwide uniform conventions for plans.
Sorry, I was thinking something. sort of-
Why there are worldwide uniform conventions. It's pretty obvious. It may say in the thing, but we talked about it. And then I'll ask you, so make sure you have your, that first, well, this is open book. We don't have a book, but it's open handout and open plan. So make sure you bring all your handouts. So when I tell you a certain type of plan and I tell you what category it is, like architectural, civil, you just can go to that or your plan and do it, yeah? So, and then there's a question that says, and I'll read you this one. It says, what does 1/2 inch equals 1 foot 0 inches mean?
What?
What does that mean? That formula, 1/2 inch equals 1 foot 0 inches. Remember, we're doing a scale from a small thing to a large thing, so you got to mention that. Then I'll ask you what scale certain plans are. I won't tell you which one. You'll get it. Then I'll ask you why section drawings are useful. And we've been talking about that all afternoon, so that should be pretty simple. Section, why are they useful?
Okay.
Yeah.
So Patrick, you're gonna like show us plans and ask us what scale they're in? For what scale are these plans question?
And most of these answers, we're gonna be answering in our own words. Or
No, I'll say what scale is such and such plan.
Oh, what scale is it?
Yeah. Some plans are always that scale, like a floor plan is always 1/4 inch. I've never seen it differently. Site plan, I couldn't ask you, but it could be an engineering it could be 10 feet to the inch or eighth inch would be the. I'll give you one that's always a certain number. And then I'll ask you, every plan has object dimensions, annotations, all of the above.
All of the above.
They don't erase the board over, well, so you got a week, they may erase it in a week. And then I'll ask you, like I might ask you a section, what scale or like, maybe say like a section plan, what scale would that be? So what scale do you think a section plan would be? Just off the top of your head. Huh?
Half inch.
No, we just looked at scales, right?
Mhm.
And they have to correspond to the house.
Oh, quarter.
Yeah, so they be the same size of floor plan because, they match it. Yeah. Half inch is not a bad guess because there's places we haven't talked about yet, details where they make it bigger to see the detail, but
I see them go bigger so that
On
they can
section.
give more detail.
yeah,
Like on a fancy porch or.
yeah, that's true too.
And Patrick, would we be able to look on these sets of plans
Yes.
to see? Okay.
Yes, you'll have these plans in your handouts.
So we could like look at these to see what scale each.
Oh,
plan
yeah,
is
oh,
in.
yeah. Yeah, I want you, because and I think this one that we've been using is probably got everything you need. It's pretty good that way.
Patrick,
Um,
when you say handouts, are you referring to the other 6 set of plans?
When I say what, Zach?
When you say handouts, are you referring to the other 6 sets of plans?
No, the handouts, like we would, like the thing that had the scale, reading scales on it.
Did you email that?
Did I mail those handouts?
Not to us.
Not to us.
Unit 8, unit 11. Print reading.
Yeah, I don't think you mailed it. I'll have to go
Now,
back and look.
So the Ramirez's, you have those, right? Because you've been in class.
Yeah, we have the handouts.
So Zach, I think you're the other one. I'll mail those to you tonight or tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
I thought I did. I'm sorry.
No worries. Yeah, I was confused the
Okay.
last couple days and I wasn't sure which one I should be looking
Yeah. Well, it'll make a lot more sense after you get those.
at. Yeah. Thanks,
Zach, I'll
Patrick.
You've been following along. We've been
He's
going
smart.
hard.
He's probably doing it.
I've been up to it with the first half of the class, then you guys veer off into the other one and I get lost and I think I just missed something.
Yeah. I'm glad you
That's
did.
all.
You'll do fine on the test because you do always anyway. I'll send you those, then you'll have the week to look at them, but the first one is called, just to bring it to your attention, it's called print reading for construction. Looks like this.
Okay.
It looks like that. And that has the what plans, the civil plan, what plans architectural, has that whole list on there.
Okay, cool. Thank you,
That
Patrick.
that one you'll need. I'll send them all to you. I thought I did. Probably I didn't want everyone to have them because then they wouldn't come to class. Got to be strategic as a teacher.
We got
Okay. But this prep, you don't need, the prep I'm giving you now is just tips about the questions, right?
Right.
And I'll try to specify what handout. So if I ask about a scale, there may be something in the handouts, but you can get off a plan. You've got that set of the Pearson plans I sent, the first set. I think I sent all the plans out, but the first one I sent out by itself, that's the one we've been using.
Yeah.
Okay. Window and doors, how the center lines are marked. You know that. It's also on a handout. A scale is what?
Scale,
A scale. What is a scale? Two things.
Well, it's an instrument
said
that
it,
shows
yeah.
scale.
is
Plan size to ruler?
It's an instrument, right? A tool, a ruler type ruler. And then what else is a scale?
a relation,
The relation, yeah, scales like the relation of, the plans to the house. You're scaling down something, it's a scale. So the word's used in both those ways, so. And it's a multiple choice. Then I'm gonna have a line, and you're gonna use the 1/4 inch scale, and you're gonna measure that line and write down what it is. And, you know, you'll all be slightly different because of the minute, but you'll all be close. And then the problem after that is using an 1/8 inch scale, draw a line. And then I'll give you the length of that line. You draw that. You can put arrowheads or slashes at the end, or just the line. I don't care. Then remember the extension lines and dimension lines? That's also on a handout, a couple places. But the extension extends to like a wall. I'll have you draw that.
On unit 8.
Yeah, I'll have you draw a wall, extension lines and dimension lines. End of line mark. What do you think that is?
That is the C for the arrow. or the-
Arrow, slash, yeah. Because I use that word, I don't need it.
Is that the same as a tick mark? They're different.
Well, sometimes they call slashes ticks, but also they call the little numbers ticks, you know? So I think I've heard them call slashes tick, right, at the end. Tick's one of those words, you know, they use for. It's one of my words for.
I know a lot of people learning to read tables. How many little lines is that?
Yeah, count the little lines. Name 2 types of information given in a floor plan. It could be that, but you can be more specific too, like, well, no, it could be that.
In a floor plan, like.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
window
there's
opening.
objects, right? That's where they have a lot of like the refrigerator and the toilet. So you know there's objects in it. And you know there's dimensions,
Right,
and you know there's annotation. So yeah, you can put those things. Or you can be specific, give examples of each either way.
like you can say an object.
Yeah, you can spell out the object, objects like such and such. Dimensions are self-explanatory. We talked about elevations, like photographs. They're like photographs, even though we talked about that they were different, they weren't exactly the same, but for practical purposes, it's like a photograph, okay? Whereas a floor plan, I don't know if this is on the test or not, but the word plan is another one of those words like scale that has different meanings. So all of these, this is called a set of plans, right? But there's a plan view, and that's looking down on something. So floor plan, you look down on it. Section doesn't say plan because you look sideways. Foundation, you look down, foundation plan. So the names will tell you, but a plan view always means looking down on something. And that's a really good term to know, because if you're drawing something and they'll say, this is the plan view of it, and they'll know instantly, oh, okay.
So if somebody says, go look at the plan where you blah, blah, blah.
No, that could be the other use, just the individual print.
Not in construction.
Yeah,
They say, look at the plan where you're gonna find these details. Immediately you think that you're gonna find something.
no, it could be on any plan, yeah.
Sorry to bother you guys. I left my phone in the bathroom. Did anybody happen to?
Did it,
No.
you're asking us.
Yeah, I'm asking. Yeah, sorry.
Check with the janitor.
Yeah, I just did. Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry.
Sorry to bother you guys.
Okay,
What is it?
yeah.
It looked like a fun thing. I met some guy yesterday who had 3 phones.
Yeah, I have a friend that has 3 phones.
Pokemon Go. I was like, damn, that's dedication.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the thing about phones is people put so much information that's necessary for their life in the phone. And if you lose it, it's a total bummer. Like this guy went and saw, that was the one thing that didn't get in his car that burned was his phone. And he was praying to the gods because so much is on it. Now on my phone, when I officially retire, I'm thinking about taking a sledgehammer and just wiping the whole thing out.
Going back with phones.
I can't do it because my wife will kill me.
Doing construction, I buy like $40 phones or, because you got.
So you guys don't even know, you guys weren't even alive, some of you maybe, but most of you weren't alive when there weren't phones.
Well, there's a
I was talking to someone the other day, remember when we had landlines and that was all there was?
Yeah.
You're on the freeway, you have to call someone, you have to pull off, I wonder if there's a phone here, look for a public phone, oh shit, it's broken, go down the block, yeah, it was less convenient.
Sometimes you wonder how you really got around.
I know.
Because we didn't always take.
But these,
naps.
but a lot of these guys never lived without that, you know, so that's a real another world.
Imagine doing it by bird.
Cherry pigeon.
Smoke signal?
That's,
Crows.
yeah, that's involved. Or what do they call it, smoke signals, you know, with the blanket over the fire, SOS.
Lord of the Rings.
What did they use
type
for
stuff.
signals? They probably just said a lot of smoke comes at once.
It's
that means
probably like
the
some
enemy's on
Morse
top of
code.
it.
Message in a bottle.
Message in the bottle, yeah. That's a good one. That always gets great.
Oh, and they have to use a scale.
Okay, oh, what is, I'll ask you what's shown on certain sets of plans. I'm not gonna tell you all of them because some are really obvious, you'll get them. But ceiling framing plan. Now you can look at a ceiling framing plan. This one has one. But what do you suppose are the main things?
The wrap, the joist.
The joisting, that's really what they're trying to show, 'cause that's. So joisting, here's a question for you. If you look at a joist plan, especially a ceiling plan, less so a floor plan, the joists run different ways, huh?
Mhm.
That's interesting. Why do you suppose they run one way rather than another, or they just sort of make it look pretty? I'm not sure. You should answer that.
That's perhaps to match the design of the actual roof, so that the loads.
Could be, could have something to do with the structural and the roof, that's not the main reason, but it could be.
To shorten the span of the joist,
And why would you do that?
because long spans make the floor not as strong. And
Yes, and you save wood, right? You get smaller wood, it
Yeah.
costs less. So usually you're trying to use narrower wood. So if it's narrower, like if you have a hallway, you're not gonna put 20-foot one on the hallway, you're gonna put 3-foot ones across the hallway.
Right.
That's the best example right there. But yeah, so if you look at one, it's kind of obvious why they're doing that. But so it'll tell you stuff about the joist. It'll always list the size of the joist, the spacing of the joist, and the extent of the joist. Those are the three main. And then, yeah, same thing for a floor framing plan. I mean, you look at the plans, and it's mostly joists and the in joists that are in the plan, so. Oh, there is one on plan views, there always one above. You won't get that. How is the direction of the downward? Oh, okay, this is, oh. I'll tell you this, because I didn't make up a new question, I'm too lazy to do it now. So we haven't looked at roof plans, I was gonna try to do that tonight, but I realized we wouldn't have time. But when you're looking at a roof plan, it's like an elevation in the sense that you're not going inside, you're looking at the surface of the building. It's a different view, it's a plan view, but it's. You can't tell. I put it on the table.
There's a word.
Where'd that come
So if you were looking down at a roof like that, what kind of roof do you think it would be?
Gable.
Yeah, gable, but it could be a roof like that. A butterfly roof, they actually make those. So it would be indistinguishable from that. And there's other things that you wouldn't see on the thing. So what they do is they put a downward arrow.
he's coming in here with a gun.
Yeah.
You don't believe
It did
us.
sound like it,
Everybody,
didn't it?
empty your pockets.
So the arrow always points down slope. And that tells you it's not a butterfly roof, but a gable roof. So that would be a question. And
I wonder if he's.
maybe why do we need a roof plan? And we talked about that. Can anybody sum it up for the rest of us?
Why we need that?
Besides me?
Why we need a roof plan?
Yeah.
See like the roof line, like the
Usually-
ridges.
Get a better idea of where all the like valleys and pitches are
Yeah.
running and.
Yeah, because if you have a really complicated, I think you're on it. If you have a really complicated roof, you're not gonna really, from the side, be able to really tell everything. That's why they put a dotted lines on that set, we had that showed the roof behind the parapet. To show you that don't get fooled by the front. It's different behind it. Yeah, really complicated roof. And we don't have time. I was gonna show you well, we have the print here. Look at. You guys are in the learning stuff, right?
But to get a good understanding, yeah, you gotta look at the elevation, you gotta look at the roof. you
Yeah,
gotta look-
and the roof particularly, yeah, all it is, see the complexity. And most houses are like that, they're just gable roofs or maybe two gable roofs meeting. You don't need a roof plan, it's pretty obvious. But look at this AADC. What page is that? Oh, yeah, page A1, the second page. Look at that stuff. Right? So what they did is they added additions, they extended the shape of the house. And so then they said, oh, what they ended up with was they had roofs that all converged on each other, there's no place for the water to go. So they had to put this triangular cricket, it's called, that to force the water a certain direction. Like if you have a butterfly roof like this, and this is level, the water's just gonna sit in there and rot the roof eventually. So when you have a butterfly roof, and there, I keep telling everyone there's that, what's the name of that bar down at,
Cricket.
the cricket.
Cricket.
Yeah, but what's the name of that bar downtown? It's a, might be a hotel with a bar in front. It's on, State and, starts with an A, what's that?
And a kappa.
No, not Anacapa, the other one.
NOE.
No, not that one either.
Ariaga.
No. I'm trying to figure out how far down. There's nothing there residential. It's got it's like the Crocodile Bar.
Oh, Almar.
Almar, thank you.
Yeah.
That starts with an A, right?
Yeah.
Almar and State, there's
That's
that
like way
Crocodile
up
Bar.
here.
That, the parking thing that you go under is got a roof like that. The only one in town I know, so I always tell people to go back and look at it. But it's a stupid roof. It's a design thing that some architect thought was cool. It's totally stupid because the water settles, so you have to put a cricket in the middle, like here.
Great.
So it forces the water, makes a triangle and forces the water to the end. I mean, so that's what they did here. And it's because when they got done adding the rooms and putting the kind of roofs that match the other roofs, it didn't all fit together very well. So they had to put something in there. But you'd never understand that unless you had a roof plan.
For people who love, it's for people who love leaks.
That's, yeah, in Santa Barbara, that's one of the biggest callbacks to roofs, right? Around pools or, so you don't want to mess around with that stuff. Okay. Now, yeah, throw out the foundation ones, because those are going to be next. See, I have these tests from year to year, but we don't cover the same stuff in the amount of time, so I have to keep them a little. Wow. Oh, so I'm gonna have two math problems. One subtracting feet and inches, and then the other adding. Does anybody, I tell you, if you're not sure about that, when you come to it, they're the same kind of problems that were on that thing. Come up during the test and I'll work with you on it. Because I don't want to take time to go over it again now. But if that's a weak point in your math, just come on up. We said if a floor plan is missing a key dimension, how can we find it?
Scale it.
Look in the,
There's two ways. Go ahead.
then you just look in the key.
General notes.
No, you can, if it's got a bunch of dimensions, sometimes you can use two of them to find the third one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's it.
yeah, or you can use your scale. That's why we learn the scales, because sometimes they don't have dimensions, and so you can use this. So that's what you do, one of those. Why do we need annotation on plans? That's pretty obvious, or these all think,
Clarify things
yeah. Sometimes a word is worth 1,000 pictures.
sometimes.
Oh, when we cited that exercise where we cited the house on the plan, remember that? That wasn't last night. Tell me it wasn't, please. Was it? It had to be Tuesday a week ago.
What was the exercise?
We cited the house on the plan and we, remember, and we looked the distance from the boundary and tried to find the first.
I think
That
it
was
was
last
last
night.
That was last week.
That was last
That was
week,
last
yeah.
When we try to locate a certain point based on.
Yes, so when you do that, I use the word triangulate. You guys
Oh.
know that word? So you use whatever information you have to kind of get to find a certain thing. So if you understand that word, you get that question. So what do we do on that exercise? What do we have to find? The minimum we have to find to lay out a house. We started with a point, finding a single point on there, but was that all we needed?
Well, you need another point just to have a line.
Yeah, because you have to do right angles, from it,
Uh-huh.
right? So you have to have at least a wall, at least a line. So 2 points. You have to establish a line, not just the first point, but you got to go to the second. Then everything in a rectangular house, everything's right angles from that. You know,
Yeah, make sure the foundation square.
yeah.
When do you go off like a fire hydrant? Or like the other?
Yeah, for the elevation, that's yeah, so siding's both horizontally and vertically. And vertically, I don't know if I have any questions. I'll see if we have any on that.
I was in the reading.
Okay, in siding, it's funny you should mention that. In siding a house, how does the builder locate the height of the foundation form boards?
Reference point.
Yeah, reference point from, what's the word? Benchmark?
Find out.
Yes.
Yeah, the
Benchmark, right?
Yeah.
Because that's established, the surveyor establishes that, so that's on the plan, the architect will have that on the plan. Where the benchmark is, and then the house finished floor or subfloor height will be on the house that will be printed. So if the house says 300, obviously it's not going to be 300 feet above the benchmark, it's going to be 300 above sea level, and that benchmark is going to be somewhere closer to 300 feet. So the house has either got the sea level for the finished floor, or it's got, using the benchmark, it's zero, it's got a reference to that, like 10 feet above that. Because sometimes they can take that benchmark and call it zero instead of 300 feet above sea level. If you call the benchmark 300 feet above sea level, and then the house is 10 feet higher on the elevation, then it would be 310 feet. But instead of using hundreds of feet, they may say, okay, this benchmark we're going to call zero, and we'll say the house is 10 feet above that. I mean, that's what you end up doing anyway.
That's the surveyors or?
Well, the surveyors will put, well, let's look at this site plan, right here. So look at the left is the site plan, the front page. And where in the middle of the house, it says 1-story wood frame house. Everybody, site plan of the house of the big set. So on the left, the site plan says 1-story wood frame house, 1987 square feet, subfloor elevation 106.32. That's a sea, obviously that's a sea level. It's not going to be 106 feet above the benchmark. It's not. But if you zero, so the benchmarks, the benchmark here, they say X on top of concrete highway monument. I don't know what a highway monument is. That's pretty interesting. Highway monument?
We're on the educational point.
Usually they do a manhole cover or fire hydrant.
So like,
Doesn't do it.
so that's what we're.
I have no idea what a highway monument is, but
Like yellow.
so that's 100 feet. right?
But you like change them.
So that benchmark's 100 feet. You're never gonna find a benchmark with 100 feet above sea level. That's impossible. That's too even. a number. But say it is, then the house is 106 feet, so it's gonna be 6 feet above that benchmark. So you could zero that. First one, not call it 100, not worry about what it exactly is. Call that 0 and then call the house, 6 feet above that. But anyway, what was the question? It's getting me all confused here. Oh yeah, how does the builder find the height of the house? Really, you can just say it's written on the site plan house. On the house, within the house shape, they put that elevation.
What was that one more time, Patrick?
The inside the house, how does the builder locate the height of the foundation form? Oh, there's more to it than that. So you get the height of the subfloor by the elevation written on the house, yeah? Here it says subfloor elevation 106.32 feet. That's the first, that's step A. Step B is a two-step process. Step B is you look at your section and you find out how higher that subfloor is to your top of your form boards. It's not as complicated as it sounds. So here's your floor system. Rim joist, subfloor. It's 5/8 or 3/4 ply, it's whatever, inch ply. So this is the elevation they're giving, 106.32. That's to that point. That's what they put on the house. But you don't need to know that. You want to know where this the top of your foundation form is. Well, there's a sill plate that the floor rests on, and that sill plate's connected to the foundation. There's a bolt that goes up. And that foundation will, usually you put your forms out here, right? I mean, there's variations, and then it goes into the ground maybe, right? So you have an upside down T foundation, that's common. So what you want is this point here, because you want to make sure your forms come up to that point. That's where the concrete stops. And then, so you subtract from 106, whatever this is, let's say 1 inch. This is 9 inches. This would be 9 1/4. And then this will be 1 1/2. So let's make this 1 1/2. So that makes 11, 12. So it's 12 inches from this 106. 12 inches a foot, right? That's a foot. So that's simple. So this would be 105.32 to here, right? So that's what they gave us, but we were actually interested in where the forms go, so we have to work our way down. And you get these dimensions off the plan. And usually there's a section that'll have it, a detail, in the detail section, we'll look at when we get to that. We'll just show you all the things and know what the dimensions are. And this, yeah, so this is 105 because the foot lower. The foundation, everything's a foot before you get to where the form boards are. But, nobody uses that. If they zero that out, the benchmark. So that's 0. No, the benchmark's 0, and that would be more like 6 feet, And then this would be 5 feet. So that's easier to work with. Nobody works with these big numbers, but that's where you get the information. Sea level elevation. Inside that site plan, inside the shape of the house, is that subfloor height always. And then you just work your way down. So you find the subfloor height on the building in the site plan. And second, you work your way down to where the form boards would. That's how you site it vertically. That's how you have something like that.
I started a house that was in the wrong spot. One day, the surveyors messed up and these guys came out like, hey, I wouldn't bother. I'm like laughing, like, yeah, okay. Sure enough, they came out, hey, don't.
Let me
Stop,
redo it, huh?
Tear
Well, that's
everything.
what we're talking about, 6 inches on a hillside thing. I wouldn't make it, but I'm easy. Oh, God. Some people want to redo everything. Benchmark and boundary and house elevations. So they all, also, look at this same plan. Right, then 106.32, look on the upper left where the north arrow is. See that 105.97? So that's the elevation at that point in the fence or the boundary.
But, the ground level.
Yeah.
Right.
So, so it's not just, the house is what you're looking for mostly, but if you're grading or something, you want to know where the lot, the elevation of the lot. But that's why I put a benchmark and boundary and house elevation. So boundary elevation. On the site plan, refer to elevation above what?
Benchmark.
Yeah, or sea level.
Okay.
Yeah, put sea level. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if they're gonna do that anymore because of the sea rising now. It's gonna keep rising. And I think they can do it with GPS, right?
I think so.
You know, I mean, that's probably obsolete, all this surveying stuff. I would think.
Where's the question?
No, they do.
Can't you, I mean, you do GPS this way, triangulate to locate, you know, addresses, but I think you can do elevations with GPS too, right?
I don't know.
Can you repeat that question?
You would think so.
I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure you
because they,
can.
you know, they bounce it off a satellite and the satellite knows where it is, you know.
They get to pay extra for that.
It's probably more accurate.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
then
a
you
lot
have
of, a
to,
lot of bigger commercial buildings, it's all GPS.
yeah, it
coordinates.
must be, because they used to, you know, they used to have to find a benchmark that was done by the government. And they go around towns and they put them, the surveyor would have to find it. And there's a list of them. You can go to the town hall and get the list. And then find in a map, the nearest one to where you're building. And then you have to you know, you see surveyors on the road, right? They're often transferring information down the road for that elevation. It's not hard to do. It's cumbersome. It takes time, but then you pay them. But this one, like I said, was in the baseball field at San Marcos. So it's down low, so you have to come up because you have to ride across the freeway. Drive to come up to the freeway and then shoot down the road. You know, but I bet nobody does that. I bet they all do GPS now.
200 years ago, we were navigating by the stars.
Yeah, I know. I know. Okay,
200 years from now will be.
what's the method for finding the perpendicular walls? What do we call it?
Wait, can you
Yeah,
repeat
3, 4,
that question
5.
with that sea level? I
What's
never-
that?
Can you repeat that question for that sea level
Sure.
one?
The benchmark and boundary and house elevation, that one?
Yeah.
On the
thank you.
site plan, there's numbers like that on the boundary and that one on the house.
Mhm.
Those refer to elevation above sea level. You know, like this one's 106.32. I mean, what else could that be, right? It's such a weird number. So, you know, in Santa Barbara, everything's, I mean, except when you get in the hills, everything's from probably close to a few feet above sea level, all the way to maybe 20 or 30, you know. It's fairly flat until you start rising.
Hello.
So 3, 4, 5 method, call it that. Doesn't really have a name, but that's what it is for doing square, right angles. Okay. The site plan helps the contractor know this is multiple choice. I'm just gonna give you where he grades the lot. And that's true, right? It's got the elevations and if it requires grading, it'll have grading plan too, you know. You gotta grade it before you start the foundation. Where to place the house on the lot.
Yeah.
How high the first floor of the house is. Yeah. So it's like all of the above. on that one. Oh, here's the good one that we should know. Building lines. You heard of that? So building lines, I'll read you the question. Building lines are usually at the outside edge of floor system or concrete foundation. So the floor lines are like the outline of the house. Building lines, I mean, sorry. So where is the outside of the house? So if you go to the 4 of 12, the foundation plan, there's an outside of that foundation wall. And often that coincides with the building line, but not always. And that's kind of confusing, but they still use that term, so you should probably know it. sometimes there's a section that shows the, oh gosh. So turn to D1, 10 of 12, toward the back.
So would that be true then?
Well,
Oh.
yeah, let me explain a little bit.
necessarily.
I'd say, I would say true for that one. But let me show you why. So look at, do you see this section on D1 on the left? It's got the whole wall of the house from the roof to the foundation. That's pretty interesting, huh? And the building line, okay. So what goes on the outside of a wall, of a framed wall? Sheathing, what else? Yeah, the plywood or sheathing, then
House wrap.
stucco, well, house wrap, but that has thickness stucco maybe, or siding, or insulation, then stucco and siding. So it's not very regular with that, where that line is. So they usually take things like that from the frame, because the framing is always the same, no matter what you add, you got a 2x4 or 2x6 wall. And often those are even with the foundation, and then the building line is either of those, the outside of that framed wall or the outside of the foundation. But this is what I think Eric was saying, not always. Sometimes they stagger for various reasons. If
You don't have a dip in it or the.
they might have the insulation, the rigid insulation line up with the foundation. So then the frame wall would be an inch or whatever thick it is, 2 inches in. So then they would go one side.
You never want to be in, because then you'll have to put like splashing or something. So a lot of times, like, especially if it's a truss house, until I snap all my lines and get like everything where it's overhanging the foundation a little bit, I won't even order my trusses.
Okay, so here's something.
Because you can always make your house grow or shrink
No, I
a little
know.
bit.
I know. So here's something. So he's right. You don't want okay, here's what builders think. They've got a wall, they've got a foundation. So how am I gonna line things up? Well, when I build, I put the sheathing outside the foundation, because I let it go down a little bit and it stops the wind from coming in and hitting that plate, because the plate's not very windproof. The foundation's not always straight, and the plate's a straight piece of wood, and there can be gaps. And you put a sill sealer, and those things don't work worth crap. So I try to go over. So I line up the wall with the outside, and I put the sheathing down just a little bit, and then I put if there's any insulation, I put that over it too. But that's just me. People do it all different ways. Sometimes they'll put the sheathing even with the foundation, let maybe the insulation go down a little bit. The sheathing's water vulnerable, so if you put it down and it touches the concrete, that could be a problem. So there's a lot of ways to do it and a lot of things to think about. But for this, let's just simplify and say, and California is pretty streamlined because we don't have brick veneers. We don't have a lot of things the rest of the country has. So now we're starting to put more rigid on the outside because the code's forcing us to have more insulation. We can't get it in the walls. Pretty soon it'd be impossible, even a 2x6 wall, to get what they want us to have. So everybody will be putting rigid on the outside. And so you might set back the wall and have the rigid go even with the building, and then whatever siding there is, that would hang down over the foundation. There's a lot of, and you'll see a lot in those drawings. This one, actually the wall looks like it's over. This one looks like the building line is both the foundation and the wall. So I'd say let's just say often it's done that way. So this would be true. For the building lines are usually at the outside edge of the floor system or concrete foundation. True. Okay. There's exceptions to that. I know Eric would probably come up with a bunch. But I thought, when you build, you have to figure that out because you have to go one way or another. But if you look at, and when we get into foundations, that handout that had the framing background, the whole back of that is foundations, and I can show you a bunch of alternatives. And our modern carpentry has a couple of pages showing the difference in how you stagger, how you can stagger the wall. So, when I started framing was in the 70s in Southern Cal, and everything was done like that. It was lined up, and we had to have sheathing, but we didn't have, there was no insulation on the outside at that point. So things were simple. God, now they, you know, wall systems are much more complex, so. You know that guy, if you have my other classes that, and sometimes I show video, YouTube, building YouTube, right? You remember those? Okay. Remember that guy, Matt Riesinger, is that his name? That he's a prominent contractor. His stuff's good looking because he's always showing new systems. You know, new kinds of, they're combining the insulation with the sheathing and there are all kinds of things now. And he covers a lot of that. in his things.
Here's a block like that.
What?
You have a zip block right here underneath your
Oh. What?
zip block, like what you're just saying, right? Underneath that.
Zip wall system.
Oh, I didn't know that was there. Is that what that is? Oh, yeah. So they're combining all kinds of, every year they come up with a new thing. And as the requirement becomes thicker, they'll probably have to figure out other ways, you know. I don't know why they just can't do things separately. It's so saving 10 minutes here, yeah.
This stuff's like, what, $100 a sheet or something? Zip wall.
This might get into that. Okay, so, oh, damn it. Did we talk about engineered lumber? Okay, so let's talk about it real quick, because that was part of that background lumber thing. So what is an LVL? That's the question.
Laminated.
Yeah, so it's laminated, what'd you say?
Laminated veneer lumber.
Veneer lumber, yeah. So laminated just means things stacked together, so that's pretty easy to remember. So I think this is type of that, it's little layers that are put together. Not the whole thing, just this part right here. And then if you get beams, they'll be like that, only bigger lamination.
I think that's a piece of an LVL though, right there.
Oh, yeah, you're right. See all the little laminate?
The one you had a second ago would be a TJI.
Yeah, no, but I mean, just a piece of it,
those-
the end of it.
Yeah, that's
It's like this, yeah. So these beams, I mean, they're bigger, but this is the end of the beam. This is what I had to do in my kitchen. I saved pieces because it was good. So laminated veneer is like the cover and laminated is pieces.
Is that the treated wood?
This one is, they're not all treated. So engineered lumber is any lumber that's not just wood, not just a tree that's cut into a shape like regular lumber, 2x4s. That's just a tree. But if you manufacture, you take slices of a tree and glue and pressure them together, then that becomes engineered lumber. So plywood's engineered lumber. That was the first engineered lumber. It's not a tree. Those trees don't come with those layers. And then OSB's, this stuff is engineered lumber. It's just a bunch of pieces of wood. They say that it's oriented strand board. I don't know how oriented that looks, but they put all these, there's chips, then they put a lot of glue in it, and then they put it under pressure, they heat it. So it's got a lot of embedded energy. It looks simple, but it's got a lot of embedded energy. But that's engineered. So anything that's not, this you could write down, anything, because I'll probably ask you what's engineered. Anything that's not a tree out of the woods that requires a factory to make, it's engineered. So we use a lot of that. And a lot of it's pretty good, wouldn't you say?
Oh, that's so strong.
These are great, and they're very sustainable because you can use smaller pieces, for layers. This stuff, you just use scrap.
It's almost like a hardwood nailing into it.
I know. So that stuff's been pretty good, sustainable, I think. You don't even use as big a trees, you compound things. Okay, so I meant to cover that the other day. What is lumber? That's a stupid question. So it's just trees used, pieces of shaped wood from trees used for construction, something like that. We all know what lumber is.
Oh, so those are open-ended questions?
Yeah, these are open-ended, so, yeah. And I'm pretty easy on those. Just 2x4s actually measure what width and thickness. That one, because we went over that. Yesterday we had that table.
One.
Yeah, 3.5, 1.5 by 3.5. But we had that table, so I think that's the one I asked, but if I asked any others, you could always go to that. If it was a 1 by, you could go to that. What does a hold down do? We just barely mentioned that, so
Hold the floor system to the foundation.
yes, great definition, because that's the functional definition. It holds the walls to the foundation. And it's a piece of hardware, but that's what its function is.
There you
This isn't the bolt for it because they're usually squiggly. But I told you I'd bring this stuff in a week. But this goes into the wall, like low down on the wall against the stud. But it can't be a stud, it has to be 2 studs or a 4x4 in a wall. And then you screw this in. You just have to bolt, everything was bolted before, and then Simpson came up with these screws that had shear strength. Most screws are made in a mold, and so they don't have any shear strength. So earthquakes would just, and so they figured out how to, a nail's pulled metal, right? You pull it so it's got long fibers, really stronger. So they figured out how to make screws that are like nails that are pulled. So Simpson Strunka has these, what do they call them? The SDS screws and the variations, and now they've got a lot. And so they're really easy to screw, and you don't need to line up the holes and everything. They have these holes, I think, as an alternative. So these are really great. I'll show you some more, but the framing class, we go over a lot of this. And then so this is part of the hold down, and this is like against the bottom plate of the wall. And then this goes through the floor system, which is right here. It's not like this. They're kind of at an angle and they have schoolie, but they're long. And that goes right into the concrete. So you're securing the walls to the foundation. Yeah. That's a great invention, I have to say. I'm not up on everything, but that one I like.
Concrete guys really got to be on their game for location and things.
That's a whole nother thing. And it used to be, well, if you do your own foundation, then you have to figure it out. There's a lot of rules of that too. We don't need to get into that for this class, but how close to the corners you have to have, bolts, and how with the maximum distance apart they can be to be able to hold a plate down, right? Lots of stuff. Okay, just a few more. In a typical exterior wall, list as many materials as you can that would go into the finished wall. So just, like we said, yeah, we just actually talked about it. So whatever kind of siding it is. Yeah, there's variations of that. Tyvek, we mentioned some kind of house wrap and sheathing. And, yeah, sometimes insulation, more and more. Oh yeah. Oh, here's a good one. Oh, we still have, we're okay. When you're laying out a window wall, right? So this is a plan view. Just looking down at it. And you could lay out the studs in the wall first. So say every 16 inches you're gonna mark a stud, right? For the guys building the wall, or if you're building the wall. But then you're gonna put a window in, say here, right? So you'll have a king stud here and a trimmer here, and then you won't have the stud because the window will be there. You may have a cripple on top and a cripple on the bottom. And then say the window's wide and it goes to here. So what happens? If you do the layout of the studs first, you're gonna have to erase some of these. So what do you do first? You do the window layout first. So you do the window or door layout. Now that'll have all the special locations. Then you come back and do your 16 on center, and you go, okay, 16. Oh, we don't need it here. And you just hold your tape and you go to 32. We don't need it here either. And you go to the next one that's outside the window, and you mark it. So these are just tricks that you do to save time. So and also it gets confusing. So Yeah,
Didn't Mark at that time for the cripple ones or no?
well, yeah, you can. It depends on, like, if you're, yeah, you would, for the plates and the header, you'd have to do that too, yeah. And they would be, yeah, good question. And they would be, what letter do you think those are? C. And you can use double-sided if that'll make it clearer, you know, sometimes, like you can put the cripples in that. So they know, oh, yeah, okay. So these wouldn't be full length, the window would interrupt them, they'd be above and below the window or above the door. Yeah, so those would be part of your layout that you do after placing the window, then you do 60 on center. And where it was in the window location, you write C because it doesn't go all the way through. I think that's what the question's getting at. Oh, no, it's not getting into order. It's just saying, asking that there's several layouts, the window layout, the window door layout, the, okay, I'm gonna give you the choices, but I'm not gonna give you the answer, okay? Otherwise, I'll think I'm babying you too much, right? Everybody goes, yeah. So one layout's the position of the windows. We just talked about that, yeah? Stud layout, that's another one. What about position of interior wall intersection? So say an interior wall hits that outside wall. Not where the window is, but right here. So that's a layout too, right? Because you have to lay out here where that wall's gonna go. I don't know how you do that. How'd you figure that out?
What a detail? You think for a corner?
Wall. You just have to, mark one in. But it's a partition, not an end, not another end wall. So you'd mark where that comes in. You mark it on the plate, you wouldn't do anything about it unless you were putting backing the old way. But if you're doing advanced framing, you would put it backing, so you don't really need to do anything with it. But you need to know, after this is built, you need to know where to put this one. The inside wall, you need to know where it hits. So you just mark the plates with that. And that's all you have to do, because you're not putting any more interior framing. You're trying to save wood, right? So in a plan view, the end of the studs always has an X. So you know you're looking at the end of it. If you see a view like this and you go, what the hell is that? If it's got letters or an X, it's the end of the piece of wood. Okay. Just a few more. Oh, what is a rough opening for a window or a door? Anybody know? I don't you know, shut up. So it's the framing of it, right? And the window fits in that, and it's usually gonna be a little bigger than the window, so you have a little. Why do you make it a little bigger than the window? You can have. Huh?
So you can adjust the window.
So you can adjust it sometimes to get it level. And, hopefully your house will be framed level and on, but sometimes they're not. And so you need a little bit of wiggle room, so you always put a little bit. It's too bad because then you have to put insulation there, but still you need that wiggle room. And then you can just spray in insulation. So, what's that question? What is a rough opening? You could just say the frame building, that's close enough. And then 4 more. I have named 3 types of objects on a site plan, but I might have been drunk when I wrote that. Because it doesn't make any sense. No, it does. Shall we leave that?
No.
What would they be?
Name 3 objects on a site plan.
Yeah.
I drink that tequila.
I did it this morning, and I was, because some of my confused meal tests, so I had to make up for it.
You started early today.
Yeah. So if you looked at the sites, we'll look at your site plan. What is on there? Same old stuff, right?
Setbacks.
Yeah, instead of you could do those 3, because generally that's going to be on there. But if you wanted to have some examples, some specifics, setback.
Setbacks, benchmark,
Easements.
easements, the house itself, the location of the house, that would be on there. So you got it, you know, the dimensions, I mean, you could use examples of those three and say, you know, general dimensions, utilities, the utility locations, that's on there too, right?
The address,
The what?
the address.
So, yeah, okay, we'll keep that one, that's a keeper. Oh, okay, here's one, I just made this up. Never used it before, it's Premier. Why does the front page of a set of plans have a location map? Site location map. All right, site. Anybody?
So that you don't start building on the wrong lot.
Yeah. So you don't go to Azusa instead of Goleta, okay. Yeah. And, but who's gonna wanna find that house?
City.
Yeah, the plans, the inspector using the plans too. And when he goes to inspect your house, he wants to know where it is, so he needs that too. The owner knows where it is, the builder knows where it is. Okay, the second last one, in the section symbol on floor plans, what do the numbers and letters mean? And we talked about that. On the little symbol with the circle and the arrow, that one there?
Part views or section views or.
Yeah.
section views.
Did I say section view? Yeah. On that symbol, what are the two numbers, sets of numbers or letters, the B and the S1?
The section and the page.
Yeah, the page, the print or the page, yeah, and the specific, yeah. And what is the setback line?
The distance from,
Yeah, the minimum distance
From
a
the
house
lot.
has to be away from the property line for whatever reason. Okay. Pretty simple, huh? You got a little bit of stuff you have to think, but you got all that documentation to back you up all this.
Was it? Rockland?
property line.
What is a
Setback?
setback line? Yeah. It's on the plan. It's on all
Oh,
plans.
that's not the question.
In fact, it says 15-foot side building setback line. So for various reasons, you know, city, this setback was because they have a land conservation area. Usually they're like, well, 17 feet. I don't know. Anybody know what Santa Barbara setbacks are in the city? I think it'd be like 8, 7 or 8, right?
What's the setback line?
From the side, from the boundary to the house.
They're 8 inches. There's nothing there, right?
Yeah,
The-
it changes. I think it's like 8 feet.
At a house we were at, I believe it was 8, but the other property owner was arguing that you cut down the tree that was like halfway on the lot, yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, they'll get all tight, somebody, surveyors, owners, city, but it really just has a function. If there's enough room for firemen and, you know, policemen to get through there, it's all they need. You know, it should equivalent ranges. There's a good reason to have some space there. Okay, any questions? That's pretty good, right? You should be able to do okay.
How many questions is this again?
50,
Okay,
usual.
got it.
And yeah, so then we'll review the test will be Tuesday, because don't come Monday, it's a holiday, Memorial Day. I won't be here. A lot will be in field. And then Tuesday we'll review the test. No, Tuesday we take the test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm ahead of myself. And then that following Monday, we'll review the test, but also cover, like, we can't do too much void here. We have to pack it in. So we'll do, after the review the test, we'll, and the review will go short because, you know, most of us look at most of them right, just too wrong on the straight out. And then we'll go over the next unit, which is
Or details.
oh, details. Okay. And then we might go over a little bit more of this. Yeah, details. Just details.
Foundations and commercial.
Oh, foundation. Oh, yeah. Oh, commercial too. This thing is so crowded. Well, I think we'll have it. Yeah, and then we do the structural, the mechanical things the next day or. Yeah, and we have a lot of time. Those won't take long. We'll get out more plans and we'll look at more variety, more examples of things. and see the variation. It's good to know the variation, because then you won't think you're crazy when you get to a plan that's not done well.
He said he wasn't even.
Okay, so Louis is gonna come up and check to see if we gotta run. If we don't, I will personally go out and speak with someone at school to get your thing. If it didn't take, I've got the picture. I'll just go down.
Well, they'll let you know, right, if it didn't work. 'Cause
Well,
You get an email. You get an
Oh.
email right after.
Oh, you don't know if it, I mean, do you see it? Do you see it on there?
Well, I uploaded it and then
Oh.
it asked for the backside. And then I just,
And it didn't say successfully uploaded? No,
uh,
I'm
it
not-
just-
it might not have.
it said to upload the backside and then I just clicked out of it and then it let him do the survey, so. I don't
Okay.
know,
Okay, let's wait.
but it also asked to like manually put in all the info.
Oh, we didn't
from
do
the
all that.
vaccination
I was
card.
gonna try to get down to the camp this Friday.
Yeah, but it,
Are they open?
Yeah, they're open.
Like student services?
but I don't even know who,
I
where
need to
the
go there
what
too.
COVID response team
I think
is.
it's open, yeah.
Yeah, you have to call the COVID response hotline. I think.
Where are they located? They have a location somewhere?
What?
Admin?
There's check-in tables and then
Oh.
there's testing places, but I
Yeah.
don't know where the actual.
Yeah. Oh, you know what you could do? You don't live near here, do you?
No.
They won't let me, see, they don't let people do it. You could just go to one of those things and see if your name's in the, they have a record of everyone who's got. their-
What's a little text?
Yeah, the little booths. test
Oh, I
booths.
went and saw her today.
Oh, okay.
Why didn't they update it right there? I showed her my,
You
My
should go up
student-
to the one,
Yeah,
it's right next
actually,
to the
they might be able
bathroom.
to do it there on site.
There's like
Yeah,
a
So,
office.
so go to one of
That's
those
what I-
places
That's where I did.
in the next couple of days and ask them if, say, my teacher worked on this, it should, and then ask them. And if they don't, then just show them your stuff, your ID and your vaccination record, and they do it right there, I think. God, I really think about it. I think they.
That's what I did. yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, I'm gonna try to get there Friday, because I gotta
yeah,
figure a few things.
yeah,
out.
that would be great if you could do that. I think that'll work. It may have already happened,
Okay.
but they'll let you know.
Like Crystal. Oh, this thing though?
No, what? Yeah, what is?
Oh,
What are you
yeah.
doing?
Hey, how is it staying up
I'm
late?
on
It's the Dark Tower from the Lord of the
I paid
Rings.
$80 for this.
It's not
but-
bad.
80,
Okay.
but.
We
I
don't-
know,
we
it's
don't
still
get
a
a lot of
money,
extra
but
kids,
I don't
but
know this sound.
They can't
Yeah,
get
what
rid
is
of
it
the
doing
change.
in water?
We got some in the beginning, and they stopped coming.
I got
Too
I
hard.
got in Costa Rica
I'll have 2 classes.
at this like
Oh, okay.
retreat.
Oh, great.
Is it a city?
SBHS.
Is this, are you getting this
It could be
okay?
a
Okay.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
I
a
mean, that's what-
It looks like.
Yeah, so you, since you're new, read the handout.
You guys should check out this place.
Framing stuff, just to get familiar with that stuff.
Oh, yeah, you were telling me about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys should check it out.
Yeah.
So I think we're good. So we have, yeah, test what you get any. Monday off. Such a thing.
Enjoy the holiday.
We will.
Weekend, yeah, I'll try to get everything squared away.
Thank you, Patrick.
No phone, no,
No, I know, that's what I'm trying to tell people.
working full time.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, let me just find that out. The rest of this text. I don't know what happened to it.
You had a.
So it's looking at it up here. It can't be too,
There on the.
it can't
Wait,
be,
you lost the test?
Just give us all A's then.
Oh, well.
the interesting thing is it can't go far because I've only been up here.
Right.
So it's probably in the folds or something.
We're gonna just go.
Or do we get it?
Yeah,
Patrick, that's
If I find it.
that's, I've got one part of it. Part of it. The main part.
All the questions. She's gonna make us do it.
How weird is that? Hey, when you need to be my age.
Yeah,
that's
everything's
what
on
happens.
the.
Oh, here we go. See?
Yeah, so all the repeated.
Dan was right. Well, I mean, where else could it be? You know?